Hey guys, what's up? So it's currently like 2 in the morning and I decided what better to do than film a video. So here we are right now. So today I'm going to be telling you a story about my, I don't know the word to describe it, but I guess my creepy roommate. I just want to preface this. I'm not trying to bash my roommate. My old roommate, obviously I'm not living with them anymore. I'm not trying to bash them. You know, I do know that this is pretty much my fault. Like, I chose to live with this person. So yeah, so basically this is not a bashing video. This is simply a video that you can maybe learn something from, learn from my mistakes, and maybe you can get a little chuckle out of my experience. Without further ado, let's get started. Basically, when I graduated high school, the college I decided to go to initially was in the city, and it was just a lot easier and a lot safer to not live on campus. So I was going to live in a condo, but in order to live in this condo, my dad said that I needed to get a roommate. And I knew that I wanted to move into this condo like yesterday. So I decided to take the fastest route to find a roommate, and can you guess where I went? I went to one of those roommate websites, uploaded myself a little profile, uploaded a picture, uploaded a description of what kind of person I was looking for to be a roommate. Also just realized that closet door is open, so I'm really sorry, it's really messy. So yeah, I uploaded a picture onto the website, and I got a lot of people that commented back. I didn't know anybody at this college except for my best friend, and my best friend already had a roommate, so this is why I needed to get a roommate from somewhere out of the blue. So basically the people that responded, and like I said, I didn't want to wait a million years to get a lot of responses, so I got about 4 or 5. The girls, I didn't really want to room with the girl, and this is probably the biggest mistake of this whole scenario was wanting to room with a guy. I didn't want to room with a guy because, you know, I wanted somebody to like hook up with, like I had a boyfriend. So I wanted to room with a guy just because most of my friends were guys, and I just find them easier to hang out with, you know, a lot less drama, and I didn't really need any drama in my life. So I found this one guy who responded to my post. We're gonna call him Bob, and I showed Bob's profile to my parents, and they thought he was super cool, and then they said that I needed to meet him. So to meet him, I took my best friend who was going to the school with me, and we decided to go to Starbucks, because what better place to meet a random person that you have no idea about but Starbucks. So we met at Starbucks. He was super cool. He was telling us stories about his life. He seemed super cool. I wasn't getting any red flags. He seemed really cool, and we actually ended up staying there for like 2 hours talking, and at the end of it, my friend and I were like, he's pretty cool, and my friend was like, yeah. So I ended up telling my parents, and they were fine with it, yada yada yada. So he ended up being my roommate. The time he moved in, everything was fine, you know, no red flags, everything was cool. And then come, you know, a little bit later. So the first thing that I noticed was every time that the doorbell would ring or somebody would come over and I would go to answer it, he would come out of his room and stand in the hallway and watch to see who it was, and also to see, you know, what I was doing, or I don't know what he was doing, but he would just stand there. And the thing is, like, he always had his door shut, so it wasn't like the door was open and he could hear and he just like walked outside. Like he obviously like opened the door, came outside, whatever. And that's fine, you know, whatever. I really didn't think anything of it until like more happened. To build off of this, my friend came to my house to get something that I needed to be shipped off, and I was out of town. So she came into my condo, and she said that she was just in my living room, and she heard his room door open, and he was standing in the hallway watching her. And, you know, I felt like really bad because she felt really uncomfortable with the whole situation, but like, you're not, like, that's just not polite to like watch people, like, it's kind of creepy. But yeah, he would always do things like that. And there were times where I would be on my phone in my room, I would have my door shut, I'd be talking on the phone and I could hear him in the hallway, and then I would hear him stop, and eventually I was like, this is so weird. Every time I'm on the phone, I hear him come out of his room and into the hallway, and then I don't hear him go back in. So one day I decided to look under the little crack you know, the crack like underneath the door. And I did one day, and I could see him standing outside of my room listening to me on the phone. So at that point, I knew I wasn't crazy. Like, I knew he had been listening to me on the phone, but now I knew for sure that he had been listening to me on the phone. I want to feel really bad for like talking about this, but there's just no excuse to listening to somebody talk on the phone. I just don't get that. It made me feel like I had zero privacy. So then came, it had to have been a weekend or something. I was sleeping in and I heard people at the front door. I woke up to a sound of a little kid talking, and I was like, whose kid is in my house? Why do I hear a kid screaming? But I don't like confrontation, and I really didn't want to go out there. I had been sleeping, so I just kind of let it go and fell back asleep. And then later, I didn't think they were there. I went out, and all I could see was little kids' toys and like coloring books with this child's name written all over it. And lo and behold, Bob had a child, and Bob was 26. I moved into the condo when I was 18. I had no idea he was 26. I had no idea he had a child until that happened, and that was probably like a month or 2 months or something into me living with him. And that's fine if you have children and you are older than I thought you were, but it's a little weird when I find out I don't know, I just randomly found out, and you know, it would have been nice to know when I was looking for somebody to live with. So that happened, and then a couple of times I came home from being out of town for the weekend, and I walk in and there's this girl who answers the door. Or she just like comes to the door because we had like 2 separate doors. Like there was a glass door and then the wooden door. So I had my luggage and it was taking me a while to come in through the door. And so she came to the door and she's like, what are you doing here? Like, who are you? I was just like, what? I live here. Yeah, that's my room at the end of the hall. Hello. So I guess she wasn't told that I lived there, which was whatever, is a little annoying. Only gets better. So one weekend, it was actually a spring break weekend. I came home earlier than I had initially anticipated. I think it was like 2 or 3 days earlier, I don't remember. And I walk into my condo and I am not kidding you, there are like 10 people in my living room smoking and drinking and just like having a blast in my living room. And I was like, first off, this condo is a no smoking condo. And like, I get it if you want to have a party, but initially we kind of had the mutual agreement that, you know, we don't really want to do that kind of stuff. Like, this is a relaxing condo. If you want to go have a party, you go to somebody else's. And even if he did want to have one, he should have told me. But basically, I walked in on that. It was completely traumatized because I had just driven 5 hours home. And I walk in and all these people are staring at me like, what are you doing here? So I went right to my room. I don't like confrontation, like I said. I felt really awkward. I felt really trapped. I honestly felt like, what has he been doing every day that I'm not here? So I go into my room, and when I walked into my room, my sheets were disheveled and there were things out of place. And at that point, I really felt uncomfortable. I really, really felt uncomfortable. I ended up having a mental breakdown, kind of. And I went over to my friend's house. Shout out to you, because I really needed that. Yeah, so at that point, I decided I needed to get a lock on my door because I don't know what's happening when I'm not there. Like I said, I left like every weekend, and I felt like somebody had been in my room, and that made me feel really uncomfortable. So I got a doorknob with a lock on it. I know you're probably thinking to yourself, why didn't you move out? I couldn't. I didn't want to get out of the lease, and I didn't want to deal with that yet, and I had nowhere else to live at that time. So then it came to the point where I would be having conversations with people in my room. Like, I had my dad over one day, and we had the door locked because at this point I just really felt uncomfortable, so I always had my door locked. I would actually walk into my condo and go immediately to my room and shut the door because I felt so uncomfortable and I felt so trapped in my own space, which is unfortunate, and nobody should feel that way. But like I said, I did it to myself, so I really didn't pity myself at that time. My dad and I were having a conversation. We were talking about the air conditioner. We were talking about how it smelled like cigars in the condo. And we're not like screaming this. We're having a conversation in my room with the door shut and the TV on. So lo and behold, when my dad leaves, I'm at the door, I shut the door, and I turn around, and Bob is in the hallway, and Bob decides to answer a couple of my questions that I was talking to my dad about. So very clearly he had been listening. How he heard everything, I don't know, he must have had his ear to the wall or something, because our walls were connected, if that makes sense. Oh yes, and then as you know, I am a nursing student, but at that point I was pre-nursing, so I had to study quite literally every day, all day. That's all I did. And so he would blast his techno music. It would be the same song over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it would drive me absolutely insane. But yeah, so at the end of it, when our 2-year lease was up, he actually ended up moving randomly one day. Leaving one morning, I just heard a bunch of people in my condo. I looked outside and there was like a mattress being carried to a U-Haul or a truck, and I was like, oh, I guess he's moving out, didn't tell me. And lo and behold, he took all my pots, all my pans, and some plates and some utensils. And like, I get it, some things you can be like, oh, maybe this was mine, maybe this was hers. No, those are very obviously mine, which is fine, whatever. Like, I never confronted him about that. I just kind of was like, thank you, God, I'm out of this situation, thank you. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I'm sure there are like a million more stories I can think of in my head, but that was like the gist of it. I just felt really uncomfortable in my situation. I know I wasn't like threatened or, you know, stabbed or something, but you know, when you're in a place like the city and you just need a place to go home and feel comfortable, and when you can't feel that way, and when you feel like you're constantly being listened to, constantly being watched, being lied to, and it's just like, it's not something that I really enjoyed in my life. It's like, now I can laugh about it, but at the time I was starting to feel really depressed about my situation, and like I said, really uncomfortable in my own house. So yeah, that was my story. Thank you for listening. If you have any video suggestions, you know, leave them down below. They can be about anything, you know? Challenges, videos, nursing videos that you want to know, let me know and I can do them for you. Thank you for watching, and until next time, bye!